Now, if Sopranos and Breaking Bad were to have a baby, it would be OZARK. And yes, I binge-watched seasons 1 to 3 on Netflix. You can go over right now and add it to your playlist. Give it a like afterwards because it helps. So without further ado, these are my thoughts and impressions of OZARK seasons 1 to 3. Yeah, now where do I begin with OZARK? I mean, this show it's absolutely bonkers, and that's probably not even the most politest way to describe this show. Now, OZARK was created by Bill Dubuque and Mark Williams. Now, whatever those guys are smoking, I want some of that stuff because I'm sure in that writer's room, they conjure up the craziest ideas I've ever seen put to film. I mean, yeah, the cinematography in this series is incredible. They use lots of blue filters, kind of reminds me of the film Deliverance of Burt Reynolds. If you want to see a man's man of the 70s, check that movie out, folks. But let's just get to it because I want to say one thing first and foremost. Laura Linney and Jason Bateman, they are acting royalty in America. I mean, these two people should be lauded with platitudes, honors, you name it. I mean, Jason Bateman, I knew him from the 80s from It's Your Move, that criminally underrated comedy that lasted one season. Very, very funny, and you can see some clips online for sure and some full episodes.
Jason, first of all, I owe you an apology. I've called you Joseph twice tonight for some reason.
It's all right, Jack.
And of course, he went on to play Michael Bluth in Arrested Development, a show so ahead of his time, nobody understood the format. How funny that is, right? And then, of course, he's been in things like State of Play, where he was just fantastic. Hitch. But then, you go to Laura Linney now. I first saw her in the Clint Eastwood movie, Absolute Power. And then she was in The Big C on Showtime, one of the best shows I've seen about cancer. Her chemistry with Oliver Platt was just hilarious. I've got to watch that show again, actually. I might even do a review of it in the future. So if you want to see that review, let me know in the comments below. But of course, she plays Wendy Bird. Bateman is Marty Bird, and my God, this is the strangest family dynamic. Now, Sopranos, I'm still watching it at the moment, and it's really quite funny because I never knew for the longest time that Sopranos was just a metaphor for a dysfunctional family, but they used a mafia angle around it. Here, this is not that. This is just straightforward. What you see is what you get. So I'm not going to go into spoilers, specific things. I'm not going to touch on anything because, I'm a considerate guy. If you've not seen Ozark and you've been wondering for a while, should I watch it? I'm just going to give you my thoughts and impressions as a viewer. I'll tell you right now, you should watch it. I mean, there's so many reasons. So, the Bird family, they start off in Chicago, but due to extenuating circumstances, have to relocate to the Ozarks in Missouri. Why? Because Marty Bird was about to be exterminated by his boss, who turns out, well, to the viewer, he's a Mexican drug cartel overlord known as Del Rio, played with exceedingly great menace by Esai Morales, who's going to be in Mission Impossible 7, so no wonder Tom Cruise chose him. He obviously saw Ozark and thought, hell, this guy needs to be in my movie. And yeah, it's quite incredible. The circumstances that leads the Birds from going to Chicago to the Ozarks it's like the beginning of your worst nightmare. So they go to the Ozarks to launder the rest of the cartel money. They call it cleaning the money, which is kind of like a literal term. And yeah, because you've got to put the bills through a tumble dryer and say it looks like it's used, which is really, really cool. Now, I've got to say, the creators of the show had to embellish the money laundering side of things because in real life, it's a very boring, laborious process. I won't go into details what I know, but because I've read accounts of money laundering through jobs I've had, and I will say there are aspects of this show, they get it absolutely spot on, but obviously, like I said, there is a lot of embellishment involved. Now, I will say that the Bird family, you've also got the brother and sister duo of Jonah and Charlotte Bird, played respectively by Sophia Hublitz and Sky Gardner. Now, their chemistry is pretty incredible. I mean, the only other time I've seen a sibling chemistry that's as good as this, but not better, is between Elliot and Darlene in Mr. Robot. I thought those two actors were phenomenal as brother and sister, but really here, Skylar and Sophia, they have such a great chemistry. It's not the usual bickering brother and sister act that you see on TV. This is kind of like, it steps it up a level. Now you are introduced to other characters in the Ozarks. So this is actually the county itself. So you got Julia Garner as Ruth Langmore, and she's part of the Langmore family. There's kind of a running joke with them that there's a Langmore family curse, and I guess part of it is kind of true, but when we see her as Ruth Langmore, we don't like her straight away. She's just a common thief, blah, blah, blah. But she's one of these very quick learners, and I kind of like that. And then you've got her brother Wyatt, who kind of reminds me of Jack White from the White Stripes. He kind of looks like him. Now, the actor that plays him is Charlie Tahan, or Tan, and he was Scarecrow in Gotham, but I haven't seen the 4th season of Gotham. So I can't wait until he pops up now, because he's kind of a gangly, skinny guy, but he's oddly good looking, I suppose. And then you've got his father, played by Mark. It's Mark Menchaca, that's it. Now this dude looks like Jack Starrett from First Blood, the very first Blood from 1982. He's got that gravelly voice, but in a particular episode, he sings a Nirvana song.
Which came as some surprise, spoken to his eyes, I thought you died alone.
He does a really great cover version. You got Lisa Emery as Darlene Snell. She is quite the discovery in the show. When we first see her, she's really terrifying. And then you got her husband, Jacob, played by Peter Mullen, a Scottish actor. I met this dude back in 2013 when he was in the film Welcome to the Punch. It was kind of a low-grade B-rated action movie made in the UK, but it was fun to meet him at an after party, and he can regale you with a lot of stories. Really, really nice guy. But I will say as well, some of the things the actors are asked to do here in this series is quite incredible. So you have an actor called Jason Butler Harner, who plays FBI G-Man Roy Petty. In one episode, he's kind of instructed on the script to unzip his trousers and to pleasure himself to his dead lover's voice. Yeah, you watch the first 3 seasons, and you feel like you've been in a nightmare. You wake up and you think, what the hell just happened? For me, this is like the modern day version of the Bible. And by that, I mean, there is no fine line between amorality and morality. You've got the left road, which is the road of evil. You've got the right road, which is the pathway to goodness. But then you've got this middle path that there is no middle path. It's just not there. You can only go left, you can only go right, and there is no in between. Bill Dubuque and Mark Williams need to answer for how they come up with these crazy, insane situations. Now, Jason Bateman is an executive producer and a director on a few of these episodes, and I think you can always spot the Jason Bateman episodes when they come up because they are so good. And I'm not pouring shade on other directors who've been involved with the other episodes because they're just as good. I mean, there's so many great characters within this series. Because it's set in Missouri, you've got Kansas City, you've got the Kansas City Mafia, whose big head honcho is played by John Bedford Lloyd as Frank Cosgrove. Very big, imposing man. Now, what I hope they do in season 4, which I've been told is going to be 14 episodes. So seasons 1 to 3 are 10 episodes each, but because they're going to wrap it up, the 4th season's the final season. It's going to be split into 7 episodes each, which I think is really good. To me, this shows they're honouring the legacy of the show and the fans who've come to it. Unlike Game of Thrones, and I'm going to talk about that particular show at the end of this review, because Game of Thrones Season 8 just didn't care about the fans. They just wanted to make it their own way, and I think a lot of people felt robbed. I love that petition, by the way, about remaking Game of Thrones Season 8. I think they should get a bunch of fans together and do that. But I will say the most outstanding episode of this series is an episode called Boss Fight. Honestly, when you see it, it almost feels like it's a demented version of Waiting for Godot. Okay, if you know that play, if you know what I'm talking about, this feels like that in some places. It's not exactly a bottle episode. There are a few bottle episodes in this because, like Breaking Bad, if you've ever seen that show, they have like a certain acquired budget for each series, and certain episodes demand more special effects and heavy action set pieces than some others, which are a bit more quieter. So in Breaking Bad, you had that episode called The Fly. Also, another callback for Waiting for Godot. It really is, and it's a great episode. People don't like that episode because they said it was boring. It's just two characters, Jesse and Walter, in a lab talking, but it was fantastic because a lot of stuff is revealed in that episode, and you don't get any of those kind of episodes like that in OZARK. They're kind of done differently, but you kind of know if one episode seems a bit quiet one week, you know the following week there's going to be some serious meltdown, whether it's physical or mental. But boss fight, all I would say is there was a Mexican heavy metal track that they play in it, and I'm like, I had to immediately Shazam this and send it to my friend, and he loved it. So it was great. That's just that is a battle of wills. I mean, obviously, boss fight is a video game term, but here, when you see it played out, it's not like that at all. It's great. And I've got to say, there was another character that I love here called Helen Pierce, played by British actress Janet McTeer. Honestly, when she pops up, you don't know if she's going to be your worst enemy or your best friend. She's really a bit of both in some respects, and she is a phenomenal character. Like, I mean, wow. I mean, one thing I'll say about the female characters in this show, the way they are written, like Ruth Langmore is a standout. She really is. Obviously, Wendy Bird, played by Linny, is incredible. I mean, when we see Wendy Bird, she's kind of getting used to her new lifestyle, that she's going to be a crime lord in inverted commas, and it's like she kind of gets things wrong. Like if you see a dead body in the water, you don't draw attention to it, but she does. But then she suddenly starts picking up on things, and it's really, really cool. And Jason Bateman is one of these, his character, he's kind of like an extension of Michael Bluth from Arrested Development. He doesn't like to get in the fisticuffs or do anything violent. That's not his nature. He's like the negotiator. He kind of has a word for every single scenario. He's got one line for everything. It's brilliant.
You really want to do this?
You come anywhere near me, my family, or Ruth again, the next time you see your son, he's going to be hanging from a bridge in Juarez. You got that?
The way season 3 ends, if it ended on that particular cliffhanger and they never made any more episodes, if there was never another season renewed, I would have said this is the most perfect thing ever done, because the way season 3 ends, especially that last scene, it just wipes the floor with anything Game of Thrones season 8 ever did. Like, seriously, it does. You just don't see it coming. It's like, wow. And it's a moment I rewound probably about 7 or 8 times, because yes, I am that macabre. It's just nuts. It really is. It's one of those moments where you're like, okay, wow, yeah, you just don't see it coming. But I'd like to see more flashbacks of some other side characters, like Mr. Cosgrove. How did he become a KC Mafia honcho, big shot, whatever you want to call him? I want to see more of that. And you know what? Everybody's been predicting at the moment, how is season 4 going to end? Who lives, who dies? Now, I think that maybe Wendy Bird might die at the end of season 4. There is an omen. There's a bit of a foreshadowing in season 3, but I think that's a bit of a... That's misleading. I don't think that's going to happen, because the thing about this show is to talk about omens and whether they come true or not, and I think that omen is going to be the reverse of what you see. You know what I'm talking about. Plus, there's some disparity going on, or there will be going on, between her and Jonah, her son, because he discovers something about her in one of the seasons. So I'm wondering if they're going to take that forward. One more thing I want to say, right? There are some characters you see in OZARK, and you do care for them. Now, some of them, admittedly, they do sign their own death warrants. It's not without saying, but it would be nice to have seen their deaths on screen as opposed to off screen. Why do I say that? Because I think there's more emotional impacts involved when you see everything on screen. I think this is the thing about where, you know, you like a character so much, but it's going to be detrimental to the audience if we see their deaths, and you might upset them. But Ozark pushes so many buttons anyway. Why wouldn't you have those in? I don't know. But season 4, it could go either way, but I really hope it goes out with a bang. It might be one of those things where you just wake up at the end and you go, what the F was I watching? Because you do get lots of that in this show. It really is. Honestly, If you haven't yet watched Ozark, make sure you go to Netflix now, add it to your playlist. Don't forget to give it a like after you've watched each season, because then, Netflix in their infinite wisdom will send you more stuff that's similar to that, and you can add that onto your playlist if you wish. I thought it was really, really enjoyable. The chemistry with Bateman and Linney is off the charts. It's dynamic. The whole show, and you know what? I've got to give a mention to Ewan Harris as Buddy. He's the neighbor with the birds, and he is fantastic. I mean, this dude goes skinny dipping, and he's what, in his 60s or 70s? He's just a funny dude, man. And also, the robot assassin, Nelson, played by actor Nelson Bania. He is great. I mean, he spends most of the time killing people on screen, but you do get the odd moments where he's actually acting. And the dude is a good actor, very menacing, very unnerving. You get very unsettled the minute he comes on the screen. So, yeah, man, watch out for him, because he's formidable. He's a great screen presence. And I've seen him in interviews, and the dude is a nice guy, but for him to go from a nice guy to this absolute stone cold Charlie Bronson kind of killer in Ozark is just nuts. So do me a favor, guys. If you've seen seasons 1 to 3 so far, this was my first time watching them all. It was phenomenal TV. But honestly, you got to have a good dose of Ted Lasso afterwards, because Ted Lasso's like that thing. You got to wash away those sins after you've seen an episode of Ozark. But yeah, guys, do me a favor. If you love this video today, make sure you give it a like. Subscribe if you want to, and I'll catch you on my next upload.